Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here, Trumfleries, and in this video, we're going to be doing a really late September TBR video. And about half the books I'm going to be reading in this month are going to be for the Tome Infinity and Beyond Readathon. I'll leave that link down below, my announcement video for that. And like I said, about half of those are going to be for that, so I talk more about them in that video, so I'm just going to go through those ones pretty quickly. Then I got some other stuff I want to try and read as well, so let's just get started. And the first one is the second book in the Dying Earth tetralogy by Jack Vance, and this one will be Eyes of the Overworld. They're just really cool, like loosely connected short story collections, and they're really quirky and like pulpy, and I really like kind of like that kind of era of fantasy writing. So I think it's pretty cool. It's something I've never really read before. It takes place in like real distant future, and the Earth has basically become a red giant, and magic has sort of come back because of that and stuff like that. So I thought it was pretty cool. So I'm definitely going to be reading the second book in the Dying Earth series. The one I'm most looking forward to is the third and last book in the Cold Fire trilogy, and this one is Crown of Shadows by C.S. Friedman. And I just really enjoy this series. It's really unique. The whole concept of Myrna and stuff is just awesome. And I really enjoyed Black Sun Rising. I thought When True Night Falls was even a little bit better. Got rid of some of the flaws in the first book. And like I said, even though the series isn't perfect, the whole concept is so cool. I'm willing to overlook some of the problems. And I'm just really excited to finally finish a series. And I'm one planet to be this series because this was my favorite one that I started this year. So yeah, I'm expecting Crown of Shadows to be an awesome read. Alright, next up, we have Packing for Mars, The Curious Science of Life in the Void by Mary Roach. And Mary Roach is like a comedic nonfiction author. She's got a whole ton of books out, so I'm hoping if I really enjoy this one, with its, I want to say, I think there's quite a bit of humor and stuff in her writings from what I understand. So yeah, I'm hoping this one's pretty cool. I think it's about basically how humans are able to live like kind of on space stations and in space shuttles, and basically how they're not really able to live that well in like those confined and very kind of unique conditions, I guess you could say. But it looked like a really interesting book, and I thought it fit with the kind of space and sci-fi theme of the Tome Infinity and Beyond Readathon. I also picked up Shadow and Claw, which is an omnibus edition of Shadow the Torturer and Claw the Conciliator by Gene Wolfe, and these are the first two books of the Books of the New Sun. It basically takes place in the far distant future, where we have basically Severian, who is basically exiled from the Torturers Guild, and it's just a really cool, deep philosophical sort of work, I guess. And his writing is really good. I read part of it a long, long time ago, but I just didn't finish it because I wasn't really reading fiction at the time. But yeah, I really think his writing is supposed to be really good, so that's why I picked up this series, and I'm hoping Gene Wolfe becomes, if I really enjoy his like prose and writing style, hope I continue reading lots of his other works, because he's got a whole bunch of books in his bibliography, basically, so lots to choose from if I enjoy this one. There's also an audiobook, which is How I Killed Pluto and Why I Had It Coming by Mike Brown. This one just looked like a really entertaining, like quick, fun listen, I guess, not really a read in this one. But basically, I think Mike Brown is one of the guys who found the first exoplanets, which are planets, past Pluto or in another solar system or something. And that basically started the whole basically debate of, does really Pluto actually count as a planet? And then, the consensus said, no, Pluto doesn't count as a planet. So he basically murdered Pluto's status as a planet. So I think it's going to be just like a nice, humorous little like science, popular science book. So that's why I'm going to listen to that one. And lastly, for the Tome Infinity and Beyond TBR books, I'm going to be reading, probably on Kindle, Almaric, which is Robert E. Howard's only pure sci-fi book, I guess, that he wrote. And it's basically about Esau Cairn, who basically gets transported to a whole other planet and has to save them or rescue them from being destroyed from something else or something or other. It was very John Carter feeling, just from like the little blurb that I read. So I have really no idea what's going on with that one, but it was vintage sci-fi, and that was one of the challenges. So I really like Conan and Brad McMorran and King Cullen stuff from Robert E. Howard, so might as well try out his one science fiction work. Alright, now I have a couple books that I want to read that I started during the nukes but I didn't finish. And the first one is The Greek Ideal and Its Survival by Moses Hadas. And as you can see, it's a very beat up old book. And basically, this is just like a really cool, like little kind of like long essay type thing on basically why the Greeks were cool. Basically, I mean, it's written like the 50s or 60s, so it's kind of dated a little bit, just like on the writing and stuff. But basically, it's basically why why the the concept of the Greeks are important, why we should still like learn about them. So I'm really enjoying this one. I know it's super short, but I've just been like slowly just like enjoying it. But definitely need to finish this one this month. I want to read The Poetics of Aristotle. It's not this entire book. It's literally only about like 30 or 40 pages out of this book. But I just wanted to read something by Aristotle, and that was one that I never, I don't think I've read even like a part of before. So I want to read some Aristotle, and I decided to go with the Poetics, and I read a companion kind of commentary book down here on Aristotle's Poetics as well. That commentary book was terrible, so I'm hoping Aristotle's Poetics is just like good on its own. But yeah, I really enjoy Aristotle. So yeah, that's why I'm going with The Poetics of Aristotle. And the last one that I started was Joan of Arc by Helen Castor, A History. And this is basically a biography of Joan of Arc, obviously, and kind of a little bit of history of like kind of the French conflict that was going on before and after. I read like the first 2 chapters, and this was all just like contextual stuff about like Agincourt and basically kind of the political turmoil with the 2 like rivaling French dynasties going on after that. So we haven't even got to like Joan of Arc yet. It's kind of dry, and when I say things are dry, that means they're pretty dry for the vast majority of people. So yeah, I don't know, not super enjoyable yet, but I'm hoping maybe once we get to Joan of Arc and basically the meat of the book, hopefully it picks up a little bit from there. But yeah, it has a really cool cover too. Oh man, I'm tired. Alright, now we have 2 books I need to read them and review. I got them for free, so I could review them basically. They're still going to be unbiased reviews, don't worry about all that stuff. The first one's going to be Dead Indian Wars by Clark Casey. This is the second book in the Damnation series. I've already read Dawn and Damnation, the first book. I'll leave that link down below, my review for that video down below. And this is just like a really fun sort of, it's like a fantasy western or paranormal western. But it has a very like pulp feel to it. But that's in a good way. I don't mean that in a bad way. I like really enjoy that sort of kind of like shorter novel format, I guess you could say. It was just a really fun, quick read. And the second one, if it just keeps going with the same sort of, we have a plot twist at the end of the first book, obviously, but the second book, if it's still in the same vein, I definitely am anticipating enjoying this one just as much as the first one. So yeah, I need to get that one read. And then the second one that I need to review is Wildcat, the first book of the Caledon Saga, and this is by J.P. Harker. And from what I understand, the basis of this book is sort of taken from like the Welsh resistance to Imperial Rome, which is just like an awesome concept for writing a fantasy novel. And I read the first couple pages. I read that when I first got it in the mail. I thought it was pretty good so far. I just couldn't fit it into like my notes. I didn't fit it anywhere in my notes in August, so that's why I didn't read it during the month of August. But now that that's over and I have some more lenient free reading time, I guess you could say, I'm going to be reading Wildcat, and I'm anticipating this will be really cool. Like I said, the writing was good for the first chapter or so, and like I said, really cool concept about like sort of the Welsh tribes fighting Imperial Rome, obviously in a fantasy setting, but it just sounds like a really cool idea, so I'm hoping this one will be an excellent read as well. And lastly, I don't think I have any life science books on my TBR at all, so I picked a random one off my shelf, and I'm going to go with Eels by James Prozac because it's a little bit shorter. But yeah, who doesn't really want to read a book all about eels? and how crazy they are. I think this is about like kind of the history, the biology, the folklore, the mythology, all kinds of pretty much anything about eels. I'm hoping is going to be kind of in this book, just sort of like a compendium on eels. I don't know if it's just like one. No, I guess an exploration from New Zealand to the Sargasso, the world's most mysterious fish. I guess it's about eels all over the world. So that sounds really cool. I mean, if you don't like eels, it probably doesn't sound that cool. Um, but I just like weird, quirky kind of individual life science books on just like specific topics. As you saw, like I read 2 books on just octopuses before, a book on cannibalism, books on just dogs and stuff. So, eels just sounds like a really cool book. That's why I picked it up at the bookstore one day, and yeah, I'm just gonna give it a go. So there you have it, guys. Those are my about dozen books or so for the TBR for the month of September. Tell me what you guys think about any of those books. If you've read anything like them, or if you read them, leave some comments down below. Glad to hear your thoughts on them. And just tell me what you guys are planning on reading this month. I'd like to hear that as well. So whatever you guys end up reading, always remember, read victoriously.